Hey there, welcome back to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to make for you a pork sugo. Sugo is it's an Italian pasta sauce, generally a really long cooked kind of gravy Italian gravy that usually contains some meat. In this case I'm going to use pulled pork. It really does take a long time to cook, not a whole lot of prep, just a lot of time on the stove simmering away. I've got a few ingredients that we'll start off with, start sauteing the vegetables along with some meat, and we'll add to it as we go. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to create a sauce here that's got meat in it, meat as a base, as opposed to say a marinara sauce. Now the meat that I'm using is a pork shoulder that I cooked the other day and did some pulled pork with it. Still has that rub on it, but frankly it's fine. It's just going to be some added flavor. So what I'm going to do is essentially break this meat down into smaller pieces and get chopped meat out of it. Now it's going to further break down as we cook it and essentially shred down into the sauce and really become just kind of nice and tender and beautifully flavored. If I was starting with a raw piece of meat as opposed to something that's already cooked, by the way, this has already been cooked probably 7 or 8 hours in a 200-degree oven, so it's super tender. If I was starting off with raw meat, I would go ahead, season it with salt and pepper, sear off all the edges, and then go ahead and make my sauce that way, and just pull it apart as it braises. You could also you could cut the meat into smaller pieces, little pieces like this. Again, sear all the pieces. Go ahead and make the sauce right on top of those pieces, and over time, all that meat is just going to break down and become just very soft and very tasty. So I'm just going to go ahead and give all this meat a rough chop. When we come back, we'll start sautéing off some vegetables. So I've got my pan here. You can do this. I'm doing it in a fairly wide, high-sided frying pan here. But you can easily do it. I actually love doing them in Dutch ovens as well, or any kind of pots like that. Now it's a long cooking sauce that builds up over time. So you're gonna have to do this in frankly in layers. What I've got here is some standard mirepoix, onion, carrot, and celery. That I have done the ratio of about twice as much celery. Twice as much onion as I have carrot and celery. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt to the mix. I'm going to let these soften up, and once they start becoming a little bit softer, I'm going to go ahead and add in 3 or 4 cloves of garlic that I've chopped up. Once we do that, we'll come back, we'll start adding some of our other ingredients that are really going to make this sauce something special. My onion, carrot, and celery have softened up now, and then I put my garlic in there a few minutes ago and let that saute a little bit, soften it up and release some of its flavor. I'm going to go ahead and add my pork now, pork that I chopped up. And I'm just going to let that come up to temperature, obviously adding room temperature or cold pork to the dish cools everything down. So I'm just going to make it all, integrate it all with the onion, the carrot and celery. And then once it gets up to heat, I'm going to start adding some liquids. Okay, now that my pork is up to temperature, the pan is hot, I'm going to go ahead and start adding, like I said, a series of liquids that we're going to add that's going to bring flavor to the dish. It's going to reduce down, form a beautiful sauce. Now, you don't really need to worry about this stage or at any stage about the pork breaking up. It's going to just start falling apart. That's totally normal. Don't worry about over stirring or anything like that. At the same time, you don't have to go crazy with the stirring. First thing I'm going to do is add some red wine and let that reduce. I'm going to guess this is going to be 1.5 cups, maybe 2 cups in there. I'm just going to let that kind of mix in, let that pork and the vegetables soak up that flavor, and then also let the wine reduce, cook off most of that alcohol, concentrate the flavor down. And once that's reduced, we're going to come back. We're actually going to add some milk to the dish. So I've let the wine reduce down to where you can see, it's almost nothing, right? If I draw the spoon through the dish or through the mixture, it's not like there's a lot of liquid in the pan, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So what we're going to add now is a little bit of milk. I've got, again, probably a cup of milk, maybe a little bit less milk than I used than the wine. And we're going to do the same thing. Got it over medium heat. I'm going to let that milk reduce down, and that's going to give it, at the end of the day, it's going to give it a nice color, in addition to a beautiful kind of richness and flavor. Once we get this reduced down, we're going to add some final seasonings, and then some tomato and some beef stock to finish it off. Okay, so once our milk has reduced, I'm going to go ahead and add in. I've got a medium can of tomatoes. I use whole tomatoes that I just crush up in my hand, literally take them out, crush them. Now, we're not making a tomato sauce, right? So you're not looking for tomatoes overflowing like I would my basic tomato sauce or a marinara sauce. We're making a meat sauce here, or like I said, the Sugo. So I just want I want the tomato flavor there. I want the body. I want the flavor that it brings. But we're not looking for that full, tomato sauce. I left out the tomato paste, things like that. The other thing I'm going to add is some beef stock. And this looks like, that was almost a whole can there. It looks like a lot of liquid, almost a soup here. But keep in mind, I'm going to be cooking this over the next 4 to 5 hours. And almost all of this liquid, or at least half of it, is going to evaporate right out of here. And really concentrate the flavor. That meat will break down, the tomatoes, everything will just break down nicely in there. A couple other flavorings I'm going to add. Now you can add a lot of different things. Different regions of the country. In Italy, obviously here, we'll like different things. I've seen people put mushrooms in here. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of freshly grated nutmeg to the dish. Now, oops, I lost my little guy in there, but that's okay. You can just keep going. This is probably going to end up being a 1/4 teaspoon, maybe 1/2 teaspoon worth. And then once I get that in there, I'm going to go ahead and add a bay leaf. Now, bay leaf we'll remove before we eat it, as well as a little sprig of rosemary. Now, I'd caution on the rosemary. It can be pretty flavorful and powerful stuff. So, use maybe less the first time you do this. I like to put in maybe 1/2 sprig in there. Leave it in, for a few hours at least. You can taste the sauce as well. If you start getting, you don't really want to be able to say, oh, this tastes like rosemary. If you start getting that, go ahead and pull it out. So I'm just going to let this come up to temperature and do a real soft simmer on it until it reduces by half. So it's been a couple hours, and my Sugo continues to just braise away and reduce, concentrate its flavor. And it's getting thicker. I'm probably approaching the halfway point. And what I'm going to do is just add in probably a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Now the cheese is going to just kind of dissolve in the sauce and do a couple things. Obviously it's not going to get stringy like mozzarella cheese or anything like that. It's going to just kind of melt in there, give the sauce a great flavor, and then it'll also help thicken the sauce as well. So let me just, you just kind of want to stir that in, incorporate it, and then I'm just going to let it go for a couple more hours. Alright, so my Sugo is essentially done now. I've been going for about 5 hours, and it's reached the consistency that I like. You can always keep going. It'll continue to reduce. The flavors will get concentrated and it'll get thicker. Or you can stop here. If you ever want to just let it go long, you feel the meat just isn't tender enough, add some more stock, add some more water. That'll increase the volume, let it reduce down, and cook out some more. You do want to grab the bay leaf out of there, remove that. But there you go, just turn this off, toss it with your favorite pasta. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.